How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Darkside. This is Season 2, Episode 13, and this one's entitled Comet Watch. This is from January 12th, 1986, the first 1986 episode, and the first episode of the second half of Darkside Season 2 after Christmas break. This is directed by Warner Shook and stars Fritz Weaver, Anthony Heald, and Kate McGregor-Stewart, and this is based on a teleplay by Harvey Jacobs and Jule Selbo, based on a story by Harvey Jacobs. Brief, non-spoilery plot synopsis: you get this guy, Engelbert Ames, who is of course a silly guy that they've given a silly name to, as writers are wont to do, and he's a hobby astronomer. He got this house that happened to have a big telescope in the attic when he got it, and has taken up astronomy ever since, and Halley's Comet is going to be passing by his window any minute now. It's the day the comet's coming by. He has a wife who's very angry and has scheduled him a business dinner on this day, and says that he can't miss it for his silly comment. Really classic take of someone just completely not getting the things that interest and matter to you the most, and insist that he leave and not see the comet that only comes by once every 75 or so years, and he is trying his best to resist that, and his wife is very, very mad at him. Well, he's looking into the telescope, and all of a sudden he sees a woman coming at the telescope lens, and next thing you know, the telescope opens up, and a woman slides out of it like it was a big slide. After a little bit of fish out of water comedy, we find that the woman was from last time Halley's Comet passed, and she's essentially traveled through time, and she says that she's been on the comet riding around with Halley himself for 75 years, and he, of course, instantly falls in love with this woman, has to hide her from his wife, and of course, Halley himself will come to try to win his companion back. Now, this might be one of my shorter reviews. I don't like getting angry and harping on things too much, but this is the worst Darkside episode of the season so far. It really, really wasn't great, and on top of that, we're coming off of Monsters in My Room, which was one of the better episodes of the season, and to swing down and get to this, it's pretty bad. So I'll try to analyze this episode and go through it a little quicker. I really don't want to be just the nerd rage guy on the internet. I don't really like being negative, but I don't really have too much positive to say about this episode, so we'll go a little quicker, I hope. With the problems, first of all, this isn't horror, and this is Tales from the Darkside. I come here expecting some good, scary stories. Now, Darkside has experimented before. They've given us comedy and science fiction and maybe a little bit of fantasy. And the thing is, whenever you experiment and it goes well, it's like, wow, we did an experiment, we got something different, it was really cool. But when you experiment and it goes poorly, not only is it a bad product, but I'm just sitting there going, I wish this was a horror story. So, yeah, not the best thing there. But also, you know, when you're doing science fiction, it's science fiction. You kind of have to do that genre right. But even though this is science fiction, it just doesn't care for how science actually works. You know, they say, oh, there's a special window with Halley's Comet, and for some reason that turns the telescope into a slide where you can just go through the telescope to and from the comet for some reason, and Halley himself and this random lady are just driving around on the comet like it was a car. I cannot begin to express how little sense this makes. If there is a window, why isn't every astronomer? This is one of the most viewed things in space. You know, it's Halley's Comet. Everybody's looking at it. Why isn't every astronomer getting sucked up? I don't know. And besides, it doesn't even make sense. It's more of a fantasy element, the idea you could crawl through a telescope. It's like something you'd see out of a children's book. You know, and it's in this, you know, serious show. I don't get it. And if Halley's driving it around like a car, which is, first of all, a silly concept on its own, but if he's driving it around on like a car, why does it come back to the same spot? Why does it always come back to Earth every 75 years or so? You think it would just come whenever Halley wanted it to go to Earth. And yeah, it makes very little sense. And also, like the girl, when she comes back and they do that fish out of water, what are you doing in my home? Why, my home has changed. What's going on? How did she not know? She knew she went through her telescope to Halley's Comet and now it's come back. And she knew she spent time up there. How did she not get that going on the comet that takes 75 years to come back to Earth? How did she not get that 75 years would have passed? And then she's like, oh, have I gotten really old? And she has to go look in a mirror. And it's like, what, did you not look in a mirror the whole time you were riding around with Halley? Did you just stay on the comet the whole time? I don't know. And of course, they instantly fall in love, as you're one to do. But with this science fiction fantasy, oh, through my science I meant a strange woman and now I love her, that was actually already done in this season, way better in the episode Ring Around the Redhead. So it's already feeling derivative, and it's just a not as good version of a trope that we've already seen this season. So yeah, I really didn't like that. And also, when Halley himself comes, it's just a case of 80s TV, whoa, I'm a wacky and silly character. And then when the wife gets in the episode later, most of her plot is just going, what's going on? Who's that? And so yeah, the characters get a little frustrating. Speaking of frustrating characters, the plot of this episode, Halley wants his companion back, and because he's from way back in time, basically thinks that she's his property, which, yeah, I know very little about the actual historical figure, but unless there was evidence that he was sexist, assigning him this character trait after his death, unless he was, I don't know. But also, our main character, literally all he has to do is say, hey, women aren't property anymore, that's sexist and very bad, you have no legal right to take her. That's all he has to say, and he just bumbles around. Oh, are you really Halley? Oh, where were you in this date? And it gets frustrating, and on top of that, I won't spoil how it ends, but the characters just kind of more stumble into this ending than them actually making a choice and saying, I'm choosing this, you can't do that, and getting to their ending. It's when the ending comes, which it basically is like super abrupt, like, okay, it's time for the ending now, then it's basically the bad guys are more clumsy than the heroes, and it falls into the exact ending that you knew. Like, I look at these characters, I'm like, those two are going to end up here, those two are going to end up there. Exactly what happens. Super predictable, but it happens happenstantially and not via any of the characters' choices, which was frustrating as well. And you look at this story and it's like, it could have been about something. It could have been about meeting your hero and realizing he wasn't as good a person as you thought, but it's not really about that. And then you wonder, what was even the point? It's just a weird, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I met Halley and a beautiful woman came out of my telescope? What's really the point of this story? What is it about? It's just a weird circumstance that wraps up abruptly and episode's over. And yeah, I don't want to harp too much on this. I don't want to be too negative, so I'm trying to just do this one kind of quick. I do want to say, if for whatever reason this is the only Darkside episode you've seen, there are definitely better ones, and more often than not, this show has surprised me with how good it's been. I mean, just crack open the season and look at the episodes inside, you know. Halloween Candy, that was a great episode. And then Monsters in My Room, that was a really cool episode that we just got last time. And there's been so many classic Darkside episodes, and yeah, this show is way better than this one episode, and I'm excited to see what happens from this half of the season. But yeah, this wasn't a good start out to this half, and I did peek at IMDb really quick, just to, you know, make sure I got all my information straight, and I saw that the episode after this did actually have a lower rating, which, IMDb's a little crazy. Maybe it'll actually be a good episode, but we may have to get through another rough one. I don't know. We'll see when we get to it. Anyway, yeah, can't really recommend this episode, but like I said, almost any other Darkside episode is better than this. Just watch Inside the Closet instead. Or if you want the scientist finding a beautiful woman, watch Ring Around the Redhead. Just, this isn't the best one. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Tales from the Darkside playlist, where I've talked about every past episode. I also do the Christmas episodes early, the Joe Hill comic, and I have a Season 1 overview. So this playlist is getting pretty long, so if you want to see me talk about a ton of Darkside, you can click right there to see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.